All right, good morning. Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you are able to see my screen. It says 5 tips to support English language learners in any content classroom. You are strongly encouraged to take a paper and pen and jot down the bit.ly address. This is a web address that you see on your screen, because my presentation is full of hyperlinks. If you copy this, you can put it into a browser, even right now if you'd like, or later, and you'll have full access to the Google Slides with all of the embedded hyperlinks. I will show this bit.ly address again at the end, and Kelly, are you able to put that into the chat?
Yeah, I'm doing that right now.
Thank you. Oh, my toolbar just reappeared, Kelly. And
yeah, if you hover over it, Kathy, sometimes
yeah, it moves to the top when you. I do not. It's just always.
When you're in presentation mode, it's hard to find for sure.
It does. It just kind of goes into different ways. But now I see it. Okay, I'm going to move on and introduce myself a little bit more in just a minute. A quick tech check. We know that many of you are new to Zoom or new-ish to Zoom. You are currently muted. To eliminate background noise, you are welcome to unmute by clicking on the mute icon, only if you want to. Otherwise, please stay muted to avoid background noise. Your video is current. Many of you are off. That's fine. If you want to be on, that's fine too. We like seeing people. There is a chat icon. Please feel free to add your comments there. My colleague Kelly Tremba is monitoring the chat room. Please don't chat to me privately, to Kathy privately, because I will not see it while I'm presenting. And of course, this section is if you cannot hear me, so I won't read it aloud. And please know that this session is being recorded and will be shared for who knows how long. As I've said a few times, my name is Kathy Schick. I'm a staff facilitator at the Carbon-Lehigh Intermediate Unit. I have worn many hats, like a lot of us, in education, and one of those hats did include an ESL middle school teacher. It's been a while, though. I do not put myself out there as the expert. I know there's many more experts on the training session right now, and I welcome your comments. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Before we go too far, I just want to say I honor the stress in you, and I hope you honor the stress in me. I know we're all feeling overwhelmed, both professionally and personally, and we all have more worries than perhaps ever before. So I do not want to add to your sense of being overwhelmed. I will tell you right now, it is very difficult, as you probably know, to approach a subject as broad as tips for supporting ESL students in any content classroom. So I know that some of this will be old news for some of you, new for some of you. I don't want to overwhelm you. A lot of information will be shared. Just pick out 1 or 2 things today that you think would help your practice and that you would like to try. Today in this session, I'm going to go through 5 tips, and within each one of these there are several tips. We'll start with translation tools, talk a little bit about communication tips, content support, instructional practices, and we'll wrap up with the importance of consistency and where you might be able to build consistency that you had not thought of. Kelly, if there's no questions, I'm going to move on.
Yep, you're good, Kathy.
Thanks. I see I have 2 computers running, and I see a number of you have joined, are on the Google Slides right now. That's great. Let's see. Okay, so let's get started. Tip number 1 is become familiar with at least one translation tool. Admittedly, there are a lot of translation tools available to you. You may already have one that you're familiar with. You might want to get to know it a little better, dust it off if you haven't been using it. The two that I'm going to talk about are probably the most obvious ones, Google Translate and Google Translate Chrome extension. So they're the same but different. Google Translate, the one that I'm looking at on the left, this is web-based, which means you can use any device or any browser. You don't have to be on a Chrome device or in Chrome browser to use this because it's a website. You can type, you can handwrite, or you could paste text, and you can translate text, a word or two, or an entire document, and you can listen to the word or phrase. So let's go to this right now. Again, I know this may not be new to many of you, might just be a little bit of a review. So if you go to translate.google.com from any browser, you'll see this very simple graphic organizer, I'll call it, and text is highlighted. So you have the choice between translating text or translating a whole document. By default, it will take you to text. It does detect your language. So as soon as you start typing, now I'm going to type, it's already set for English, so I'm going to type a word in Spanish and see if that changes the detection. Well, it didn't move to that, but it does, oh, that's why. It does detect what language you're typing in. I'm not sure why that didn't move to Spanish then, maybe you have to type more than that. But in any case, I'm going to type something in English in this box, and the translation will show up on the right in whatever language I ask it to show up. You'll see I have it set for Spanish at this time. So here I am in English, and I'm going to type safe to stay home. And in Spanish, that translation came. If I want to change that to a different language, I'm going to take this arrow, click on it, and look at all the languages that are available. So I'll change it to Arabic, and here we have it in Arabic. Now, another feature is using the microphone to say the text. So let me do that. Oh, I lost it. All right, it is safe to stay home. Oh, I'm sorry. That microphone, there's two ways to use that. And what I'm doing is, look at that. It just picked up my speech instead of typing. It allowed me to dictate it. That's what the microphone for. Here on this little one is the listen. So let me change that now that I have you nice and confused. All right, so there's my sentence, and I'm going to have it translated into Arabic, and now I want to hear it. So I'm listening on this one.
It is safe to stay home.
And over here, I'll listen to it in Arabic.
من الآمن البقاء في المنزل.
Okay. If I don't want to type it, if I'm on my iPad, for example, then I can turn on the voice input. So let's try that again. It is safe to stay home. Okay. And the other option here is a pencil icon. So I can turn this on into English. And if I am, let's get rid of this, I am able to handwrite if I have a stylus, or even I'm going to do it using my mouse. But this is helpful if you do not have, if you have a language that doesn't align well with the keyboard. There's characters or so forth. So here is my English word. I'm going to have that translated. And there it is in Arabic. And now I'll switch it to Spanish. And that also gave the definition. And finally, the last feature I want to show you is, as I'm sure you can probably figure out, this is also a way for students or parents to enter language, enter phrases or text or sentences or an email for you in their language, so they could click on Spanish or whatever their language is from this choice, and they can type in a message to you and have it translated to English. So if you're on for example, on a Zoom call with a parent, you could pull this up on your screen, and you could share with them some translation. And then you could also add, well, it would be, I'm not saying it would be easy, but if they can use it on their screen and change screens, you can share screens. So it's one option. I'm going to share with you, I'm going to go back now and share Google Chrome extension. And I'm going to let you know, I don't use this much, and I find it a little clunky. And I don't know if it's just changed over the years, and maybe somebody can jump in and let me know. But if you don't know what a Chrome extension is, you'll see I'm pointing right now to my Google Chrome extension. I think this is screencast. I don't know, I have a couple different extensions up here, but an extension stays right in your toolbox. I don't know what this is. I forget what this is called. And it's always accessible to you just by a quick click. This is free. This, however, you have to be on Chrome, so you can't be on Safari or Firefox. And you download the extension very quickly and easily by going to the Chrome Web Store. When you're in the Chrome Web Store, it defaults to looking for extensions. You just put in Google Translate. It's free. And it's the first one that it comes up, and you'll see that because I already have it added, it doesn't say add to Chrome because mine's already added. But all you do is click add to Chrome and it appears up here. I will tell you though that what I find clunky about it is it just doesn't work on all websites, and that just might be me. But here's a good tip. If you have it loaded as an extension, you can always from here get right to, if you see where I am, you can get right to Google Translate, the web-based one. So that's really what I use it for, and I'll go back to it in a minute, but I want to show you one last thing on Google Translate, the web-based one. We went and did a lot of text, but you can also upload a document. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to click Documents. I can choose a PDF, a PowerPoint, a Word doc. I'm going to browse my computer. I have a document that I created just called Work from Home Tips. I'm going to open that, and it's asking what I want to, it's asking me right here. I can click on Translate, but I want to pick my language. So I have Spanish, select it. So I'll hit Translate, and that document comes up in Spanish. So that was a Word document, was not a website. If I go back now, so for me, I can get everything I need in Google Translate. I like the Chrome extension just as a quick shortcut to get to it. But going back now to the Chrome extension, it says that it will translate an entire page. So when I clicked on it to translate this page, you have to look at the top. You see where my arrow is. Translate to, and you have to pick your language. Now, of course, I'm not, mine is cutting off. My view is cutting off. Let me go to a website. Let's go to the ESL portal website. And so now I'm going to hit my Google Translate, and I'm just going to say translate this page. And again, I have to go up here. This is sometimes the overlooked step, and pick my language. I'll pick Czech, and it did translate this website into Czech. All right, so I like it for that. Where I don't like, it doesn't work for me for every website, and where I don't like it is just trying to translate different parts of a website, sentences. It gets very clunky for me. I'm going to stop here and see if there's any questions. comments, questions?
I'm just, there were 2 comments regarding that,
Mhm.
but they're not questions.
Go ahead. Are they?
I can share them with you.
Oh yeah. Are they rude?
No.
Are they Zoom bombers?
No. They're not Zoom bombers. The Chrome extension translated the closed captioning on a Google Meet. So that's
Good.
good to know. And then another comment says, please remember that not all parents are literate in their native language, even though they may be able to speak it. They may make a lot of grammatical errors in their native language writing. So if they use this tool, the translation may seem not to be deciphered. What you type has to be grammatically correct.
And yes, thank you. And I also wanted to add, I want to point out, I hope you're seeing my slide again. I have a note here, know that accuracy may vary. And that is exactly why accuracy may vary, both from the translation standpoint and from the literacy of the person who inputs it. And yes, that can be. So as with every tool I'm going to share with you, there are caveats. I wish there was an easy magic bullet, and there just isn't. So thank you for pointing that out. Anything else, Kelly?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. I know there are a lot of translation apps and extensions, and another one that I have heard good things about is Read and Snap. I looked at it. There's a fee for it. Maybe some of your schools have it though. So, look around if you think there's something better out there that you want to find. My takeaway for this is, as a content area teacher, if you do not currently have at your fingertips a translation tool, you might want to find one and become familiar with it. This session is really designed for content area teachers, not ESL teachers, but I'm so glad there are ESL teachers on with us. But I'm now speaking to the content teachers. Check with your ESL teacher. Your district may also have translation services that you are not aware of. And I also invite you in the chat room to share any experiences like you have been doing. I'm going to move on, but before I do, I just wanted to say, by the way, speaking of translation tools, more now than ever, many organizations are providing important documents in multiple languages. So let me just take you out to the CDC resource page for other languages other than English. Maybe you've already been here, but there are a lot of resources here in other languages that you may wish to send out to your students or to their parents as a district, or just, you want as a teacher. This is helping children cope with changes resulting from COVID-19. And this too has, if you look at the right-hand side, there are many other languages. So there are resources, as I said, more than ever available that are already translated for you. I'm going to talk for a few minutes about a subject that this is just some reminders, but I think it's just that important to talk about right now. Now that you have maybe some idea of how you'll translate or that there's translation options available, let's talk about communicating with your EL students. My suggestion is, first and foremost, that you establish a consistent check-in time with the ESL teacher of your district or building and collaborate. If this isn't happening, make every effort to make it happen. The ESL teacher could be your lifeline and give you a lot of support and help. You don't have to go this alone. The next suggestion is to consider communicating with your EL students or their parents if they're young in some sort of consistent way, so that they know every other Friday at 9 o'clock, I can talk to my ESL teacher, my classroom teacher alone, not with other students on the line. I know this isn't possible for everyone, but if you have a small amount of English learners, this is a possibility. So consider doing that. Maybe even invite the ESL teacher to join, or again, check with your ESL teacher. He or she may already be doing one-on-one calls, and maybe you want to join the call that she has scheduled. I feel like this is so important from a social emotional perspective right now. A lot of our English learners are more isolated than even other kids because they have perhaps not been in the country long enough to create long-lasting friendships. They may not have friends that they're on chat with and FaceTime with and so forth. And they are possibly in a home where they are not speaking any English at all. And so their English skills are backsliding. So, even just to touch base to say, how are you? What's going on? It doesn't have to be formal, and it can be very, very short. But I think it's a great communication tip if you can fit it into your schedule and make it happen. When you email an ESL student or parent, I think it's a good idea to ask for a response to confirm that they received your email. So you might want to ask at the end of an email, please respond to let me know that you understood this, or that you were able to read this, or that you got this, depending on their language level. If you're not getting responses, then I would make a phone call, maybe with your ESL teacher, perhaps even with the translation line if your district has one. Of course, keep messaging positive. I think we're all taking these deep breaths to keep ourselves calm. We want to make sure we don't message that to students that we're frantic or nervous, especially for students, like I said, who may be a little more isolated, have a little less information. And I think it's a great idea to periodically invite your English learners to respond to just some open-ended fun questions, just to give them opportunities to practice their language and to reduce their isolation. So I created a little list of what I meant. So maybe once a week you email your ESL students, your ELs, and just say something like, tell me about a tradition in your family. Or what makes someone a good friend, and ask them to record themselves speaking about it and send it back to you, or to send you an email back. This will all depend on their levels, but any way that you can keep them talking, give them opportunities to talk, and in a non-threatening and informal way. I'm going to ask, before I move on, let me go back. Does anyone have any other suggestions right now on communicating? We know we can translate some documents. We know we can use email and so forth, but any other tips or anything you're doing to reach out to your English learners right now?
Kathy, someone shared in the chat, and I don't know if we want to unmute her so she can share a little bit about it. It says talking point is a great way to send messages to parents where English is not spoken. Would you like?
Please, if the person who said that wants to unmute, everyone has the power to unmute themselves. Just click on your name, click on your icon.
Sure. Kathy?
Yes.
Hi, it's Ann. I sent that out to everyone. Talking Points is a free application. I highly suggest it. I know on my my homeroom teachers are using it for those houses where English is not being spoken and you need to get a message out. You type it in English, but it arrives. It's an app. There's a message that you send for them to put it on their phone. So you send it to them, they'll receive it in their language. They respond to you in their language, but you as the teacher receive it in English. So I would highly, if you haven't heard of it, it's definitely worth checking out, and we've had some really great success using it.
And is that free?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Anne.
You're welcome.
Also, Kathy, there are two other suggestions. Class Dojo has onboard translation, similar to Google Translate, as well as Remind. There is a translate button in Remind.
Great. Yes, I am so glad you're sharing these. I know there are a lot. And I just, like I said, I just didn't want to overwhelm with too many, but I'm glad you're sharing the ones that work for you. The takeaway for this is become familiar with one or two of them. And the takeaway from this slide, I'll say for communicate, I mean, I had this as the last slide and I thought it's just so important. I'm going to say something sad and I don't think it will be too shocking, but long ago I worked in a building where I saw some students who were ESL students and their language was not Spanish or Arabic. It was a very remote language. It was two brothers. And they literally were just sitting with their heads down most of the day because there was just no communication with them. And I just, we don't want to see that happen, even virtually, that they're just not hearing from us. I read an article online the other day from a professional magazine that said, our English language learners risk falling through the cracks during coronavirus closings. And I think communication is the key to that. If nothing else, communicate, right? Even if you think they're not getting the content that everyone else is getting right now, just don't let them feel excluded. All right, let's talk about some content. So first, choosing content. There are, just like all these resources that you were just sharing, there is already content out there that you can pull in that has a lot of supports for all students, really critical for our English learners. So when you're adding any content, when you're sending content to kids, whenever possible, try to include a variety. So not just a long passage of reading, but some images or videos. Options for translation. So maybe you send a text that has, and I'll show you one in a minute, that has an option to change the language. A text that can be read aloud by clicking on a button. Videos with closed captions. Videos that have the option to slow down the speech. And in all cases, when you choose content, it shouldn't be so visually cluttered that it's hard to even figure out where to start. I'm going to get deeper into some of these, so just hang with me. And when you create content, some similar things, try to add videos, images, and so forth, but always provide examples of what you expect. If I expect you to complete a compare and contrast, then give an example, even if it's with a different piece of text. Always give an example of what you expect. If you're using slides, PowerPoint or Google Slides, add narration to them. You can use Screencastify or another tool to add narration to your slides. Speak slowly, speak clearly, and especially when the kids can't see you, speaking slowly and clearly is very important. They're not able to read your lips or to look at your facial expressions. So much of communication that we think is through speech is really through body language. And when they can't see body language, a lot of the context of what you're saying is gone. Minimize or explain idioms. So if you're talking to kids online these days, or if you're sending content, try to reduce idioms or at least explain what they mean. And again, adding images whenever possible. I'll show you some examples. Provide opportunities for kids to speak. So maybe they can send something to you or they can record and upload it. And offering choice. Now I'm going to move on because I have some more to say, and then I want to hear what you have to say. Let me first show you a couple ideas of content with support of what I'm talking about. And if you were on my session last week, we went through these in detail. But a place like Common Lit, this is free. This is a wonderful, I do recommend you sign up for a free account, because then you have a lot more options. Let me see if I can quickly log in. So once you're logged in, I go right to this digital library. And again, you can go back to the session I did last week to learn more about this tool. It's outstanding. It's for grades 3 through 12. But let me just pick an article. I'll pick this one about Jackie Robinson, and look at the supports that are in here. So I know an approximate grade level as the teacher. I know the Lexile level. Now, again, maybe I'm not an English teacher. Maybe I'm not a reading teacher. Maybe I'm a phys ed teacher and I want to do something with this. I can have this read aloud if I'm a student. So your students, you'll have to go through this with them. Taking this tour, by the way, was really helpful. It just goes through all these buttons. Let me show you how you can have this read aloud. So I click on read aloud. And I wonder, okay, why isn't it reading to me? Well, I have to click next to each paragraph to the speaker.
Today, you may not be surprised to see an African American or Latino player.
Okay, so I get it. It's not great because it's the robot, but they're not all the robot. And then hide that. I can also translate. So we click on translate, and over to the right, I have different languages. And look, there's quite a lot of languages. We'll leave it with Spanish. So I have a little globe icon. So now I have to look for the globe icon. Here it is. And I can click there, and that will pop out in Spanish. There's also guiding questions, assessment questions. There's a lot here. There's paired, I'm at the top now, there's paired text to find more. There is related media, so I could find a video pertaining to this. So that is one resource that has built-in supports for English learners. This is another one from Scholastic. Science Flick has videos. These are, and there's experiments that are really cool, by the way. So you can watch it, you can read it. Now this one's a little, I'm gonna click on the read it. This one has turn read aloud on, look up a word, and I don't remember, yes, change to, it's available in Spanish. So again, the purpose of today is not to go through all of these resources. I went through all of these on another session that you can go back to. The purpose of the takeaway is when you're picking content, if you can, either look carefully at it to see if it already has some built-in supports, or find content with built-in supports. One last one that I want to share, because I want to talk about YouTube channels. Storyline Online is a YouTube channel, and if you're not familiar with what a YouTube channel is, it's a compilation of one site's all of their videos put in one place. But let me just show you, this is a great one, by the way. These are famous people reading their favorite story. So I'm going to click on this one because I loved him in Queen.
Storyline.
So he's going to read this story, but look at the supports here in YouTube for students. If you point these out to them, closed captions, I have them on. You can turn them off. I've seen some with closed caption options in Spanish. You have the option, if you go into settings, to change your playback speed. So instead of normal, I can make it slower. So if I'm, if that supports my English level, there it is. And of course you can pause, you can replay. So there's a lot of built-in supports to YouTube. All right, I'm going to take questions now. A minute for comments and questions. Kelly?
I'm going to ask Heather offered a resource called ESL Bits. So Heather, if you wouldn't mind just sharing what that is. Several people have also agreed with her that it's a great resource as well.
Thank you, Heather. And I have compiled for ESL teachers a list of resources, and I will make sure to put these, the ones that you're mentioning, in our resource document if they're not already there. And I'll share with you where that is.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
ESL Bits is a basically an audiobook site. but they have a lot of content across the genres. So there's short stories, news articles, full novels, novellas, and whatnot. And they have different playback speeds. So you can, as someone who is a beginner, can play at a slower speed and read the text at the same time on the screen. And one of my favorites is Great Gatsby. They have the full text plus someone reading it, and it's a professional narrator. So they get to hear not the robotic speech, but they get to hear an actual professional narrator reading the text, which I really like. And it's free.
Yeah, it is amazing the free resources that are out there with these supports. And I think, thank you. And I think as classroom teachers, we get so busy with our own content, we just don't have time to think that through a little bit, but
Yes,
a lot of good resources. Thank you.
Power Library also is
Yes.
available through the Pennsylvania Department of Education, and they do have a Spanish like database too for resources. So that's another option, I guess.
Excellent.
I'm going to mute now.
Thank you. Thanks.
Just a real quick question. What grade level is ESL bits? If you could just unmute Heather for a second. And what age grade level range is ESL bits? So kind of the same question.
I would say middle school to high school. There isn't a lot, I don't think, for the little guys, so little ones. But there's a lot of practice for using articles, English idioms, and whatnot. So and they go by level of language acquisition. So they have, intermediate and advanced, but I think that they're more geared toward, say, preteens through adult.
Thank you. I'm going to keep going looking at the clock. I did mention that I did a session last week, and at the end on my last slide, there's a link to that. So sorry guys, I'm going to keep going. Instructional practices. Let's just talk a little bit about, so many things that and I know but let's just kind of refresh. Differentiating instruction, the importance of differentiating for our English learners does not mean creating all new content or lessons for them, but differentiating maybe by adding text with photos versus text only, differentiating the process. So maybe asking them to listen versus read something independently, differentiating the product. So instead of creating a paragraph, you are going to ask them to create a bulleted list, and using scaffolding as a differentiation. So let's talk about scaffolding for a minute. Scaffolding is temporary supports meant to be pulled away over time. So offering translation would be a temporary support. Using graphic organizers when maybe the rest of the kids are writing long text. Maybe your ESL students are given a graphic organizer or a sentence frame. Activating their background knowledge, giving them some background knowledge before a reading assignment or before any project. I'm going to talk more about each of these in a minute and give some examples. Offering additional time or chunking the assignment or the project, and making sure your ELs especially have a variety of that their content has variety. So they're not always just assigned reading. They are able to practice reading, writing, listening, and speaking, because that will help with their language development. It's so important in ESL instruction to keep reminding ourselves we are simplifying the approach. We are not watering down the content. We are not dumbing down the content. We respect the kids enough to know that we can give them some scaffolding to simplify things, but not to simplify the content. So for one example is the academic language often needs to be simplified. I'll talk about that in a minute. Simplifying our speech by minding how many idioms or colloquialisms we use, or at least explaining them. Simplifying the visuals so that they're very clear and clean and don't require a roadmap to get through, and simplifying directions. So let me just talk about a few of these. On the left, I have a graphic organizer that for a beginner might just be visual overload. I'm certainly you wouldn't use this with a newcomer, but this might just be too much. This is a compare and contrast. If you look on the right, this one is cleaner. It's just simpler. So same content, we're going to compare and contrast something, but visually a little less overload, a little less to get through. Building background knowledge. So I'm giving a reading assignment and I know that it's going to have a lot of language about camping. I want to make sure that that is not language that perhaps the student is familiar with. So perhaps I just simply take some of the vocabulary, go to Google Images, pop the word in Google Images, and create a brief, Pictionary basically. And then maybe talk to them about what these words are. That's one way to build background knowledge. I want to just show you some, and I thank Kelly for sharing this. I want to share with you some directions. So here's the directions that a teacher during this time, a couple days ago, sent to some students. Nothing wrong with this at all. I'm not judging it, but just take a quick peruse through this. And now I'm going to show it to you again, and I'm going to underline the academic language that I quickly identified. I'm sure we could argue that there's more here. This is full of academic language. Academic language is the language our English learners must learn it, but they don't know it all right away. So this is the language of success really in our country. This is the language of academia. This is the language of the business world. So we want kids to understand these words, but we have to explain them to them. So for a beginner, or even maybe a little more than a beginner, this set of directions might be too much. Here's some possible ways to simplify it. So on the left, let's just look at number 2. On the left, it said, view the slideshow of clear water and winter in the folder. I could modify that view, look at the slideshow photographs of clear water and winter. Find the slideshow in the folder. So I just simplified and maybe explained a little bit. And then going a little deeper, here I added some scaffolding of photographs. So here are the same directions. Here's a photograph of the book. I want them to know it's informational text, which means it shares true information. Go to the folder. And then here is, instead of writing that paragraph, let me just take you back for a minute.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Remember, they were going to examine the pictures, write a paragraph, and be sure your response includes a topic, sentence, and 2. Okay, so for a beginner, I'm going to give them a compare and contrast. So they're still learning what compare and contrast means, but they're making a list. Okay. Any questions about that? That was very quick. And there's a lot. We could do a whole session on modifying. Any questions or comments?
There was just a comment, again, that Heather shared about Quizlet being a good tool as well. A lot of people liked your example.
Thank you. Yes. And
if I could just share one more thing, Kathy, because there are likely many content area teachers on the call. And there was a comment from Carmelina just sharing that the read aloud and the talk to me adaptations won't be enough for ELs. We need to take into account the student's proficiency level. If a student is a level 1 or 2, the literacy, she shared that it is best to provide adaptations that are recommended by the WIDA can-do descriptors. And I'm just going to throw out there that that might be something that our content area teachers are unfamiliar with, the can-do descriptors. So I don't know if that's something.
I really appreciate that comment. And I thought about pulling those in there. And then I kind of felt like right now we're in triage, and that might be a session that I do, in a week or two, the can-do descriptors. I hope you understand where I'm coming from with that. Just trying not to overwhelm content area teachers. But yes, you are absolutely right. Your beginners, you're going to need more than an option to read it aloud. Communicate with your ESL teacher. Email me if you want to discuss that further as a content teacher. Content teachers, I encourage you strongly, if you do not know the proficiency level of the students you're working with, find that out first. Again, this is a 1-hour session. I wish we could dive deeper into a lot, but I just want to give you sort of things to think about. And unfortunately, some of it you'll have to, talk further with your ESL teacher about. But yes, you're right. For the beginners, and for the newcomers, oh my, for a newcomer, and that means someone who really does not yet speak any or very little English, this is a very difficult, I do not have a magic bullet for you. My best advice is, of course, talk to your ESL teacher, and that student, the best use of their time right now might be working on Rosetta Stone to improve their English learning, which is free right now, and they can do very independently. And there are some other things that they can do, but it's very difficult as a content area teacher right now. You will need the support of your ESL teacher to work with newcomers. So let's talk about consistency. It is important for all of our students, of course, but it is especially important for our students for whom English is a struggle. And it would just be so much easier if your way of reaching out to them had consistency, so that they didn't always have to figure out some new procedure or something new. So areas that you can build consistency. Perhaps you're sending emails to your students. It might be as simple as a consistent email subject line, so that they know this one is about X, or something. I know it's fun to be clever and cute and have fun, catchy, it's Taco Tuesday or something, but those things can be confusing for English learners. If you are using slides for PowerPoint or Google Slides, I would suggest that you build some consistency there. So if you noticed, every slide that I included this chat room at the bottom, it was always at the bottom and it always looked the same. So it might be boring, but it's consistent. You know that there's a reminder on each page for adding something in the chat room. If you're using videos, maybe your video introduction is always the same. Not that it's boring the same, but it always might start with today is, welcome, your welcome message. Maybe it begins with a similar question or a question of the day, but there's some consistency. And then in the way that you give directions, maybe you consistently use a bulleted list, or you consistently use number 1, number 2, number 3. Just look for areas that you can build consistency. And similarly, routines. So how you're providing announcements, or a conference touch base time, as we talked about earlier. Or if you're having office hours for your students, open time, maybe that's consistent, and maybe there's a special time. I wouldn't publicize it so that it doesn't make the ESL students feel less than, but maybe there's a time for them that they can jump on and just ask you questions. Maybe there's a tip of the week that's a routine. I'd like you to take a minute and share your questions or your takeaway into the chat. And Kelly, we can certainly, you can also unmute. I went through a lot, and I know there's no magic bullet in here, and I apologize, but just some reminders and some action you might want to look at taking. Questions, comments?
Kathy, I think you just got yourself a job for my content networking groups in the fall.
Oh boy, I'll be there.
So for those of you who might not have understood that comment, I run content networking groups at the IU in the fall and the spring. And it's an opportunity for teachers to come together and share a network. And so very often, our regular ed teachers, share struggles and challenges about reaching the EL population. So therefore, that's why I'm teasing Kathy that she just got herself a job coming in to be a guest presenter.
Hey, I know some of you are jumping on to another session at 10. And speaking of Kelly, what Kelly just said about networking, at 10:15, the ESL teachers are joining me for a networking session. If you don't know about that, it's on our cliu.org on our website, where we have listed on the right-hand side, remote learning, professional development. In any case, before anyone has to go, I want to make sure I cover this. So this first document, EL resources for extended learning, this was sent out to all of the ESL teachers. I created this as soon as schools closed. Oh, here's the Zoom link, by the way, to join us at 10:15 for ESL teachers. But this document has a ton of resources. For example, did you know Audible is free right now for beginning readers through teens? There are books. Did you know Khan Academy has websites in Arabic, Chinese, Spanish? Rosetta Stone is here. Baltimore City Public Schools has their paper learning packets online. And many of the sources, here's Common Lit. Some of the sources you mentioned are here. But please do look through this. It's a lot. I know you're busy, but if you're looking for something, it's really designed for the ESL teachers, but if you're looking for something, please feel free to jump on this. That's one resource. Next, this is the course that the session that I did last week, 5 online resources English language learners can use independently. And then if you're looking for other professional development, I'm going to take you here. This is on our website. This is a page on our website, and here are all of our offerings coming up for this week. I don't think, some for next week are already listed. For example, if you are a phys ed teacher, I am running a networking meeting for phys ed teachers. Here's one for reading specialists. Here's one for guidance counselors. I'm running these, and so are my colleagues for some other groups. I'm running these as no presentation, just come on and let's talk. Let's share, share resources and how it's going. If you want to look at our recordings, you can click here at recording. And here are all of the sessions for any given day. So here are the sessions on March 26th. I think that was when mine was, so here it is. So there's a lot, and these are all I shouldn't say all, most of them are 1-hour sessions. If you want Act 48 credit for today, let me take you to the exit ticket. You will have to, here's bit.ly again at the bottom, you will have to write down this bit.ly. I know many of you are already in this, already on this Google slide deck. Open bit.ly, open this bit.ly, it will take you to the presentation, go to the last slide and click on exit ticket, and you will be taken to this very simple exit ticket. And then that will act as your attendance to receive Act 48 time. So Kelly, as people are doing that, I'm just going to, I think I can go into chat now and see what's going on here.
I just placed the exit ticket in the link for anyone who's not following along with Kathy's Google slide.
Thank you. Thank you for letting content area teachers check in with their ESL teachers to have their own voice. Thank you, Maria. How about one for health services, nurses, dental hygienists? I will tell Eric, let's add that to the list. Good idea. Yes, I know, Corinne, thank you for the nice words. And I know we need more for beginner ELs. And I'm going to talk to the ESL teachers about that very topic. Will the 10:15 meeting be videotaped? No, and on purpose. We are not videotaping the networking meetings for reasons of confidentiality, so that everyone feels they can be open and honest. And just, you know, I'm not going to lie, there could be some venting. So we want to keep that private. How do we retrieve this document? So this session will be posted on our recording, on our page on the CLIU website, where we have our PD. It will be recorded. It will be listed under the recordings within the next 24 hours. Yes, Kim, I agree with you. So much information and resources out there. We just need to look for or ask. I know I really hate feeling like I'm just doing a resource dump on you all. My intention for today was just to get you thinking as a content area teacher, just, you know, about just a couple steps you might take. And really, my biggest takeaway is just communicate with your EL students. Don't let them feel like they've been forgotten about. Yes, Common Lit, please use it. I love it. Okay, Trish said, I'm concerned about a brand new student whose first day was supposed to be the first day we were out. Good heavens. Wow. Yeah, that's a concern, Trish. I'd love to know what level you think that student is. You know, obviously my only suggestion would be to work with your ESL teacher, or as the ESL teacher, find a translator to make a phone call. Holding office hours, a great idea. Yeah, we've been doing that at the IU, open office hours. People can jump on, jump off. Yes, Lori said, I agree. If the whole district used the same formats for Google Classroom or emails, it would be easier on students and their parents, for sure. Okay, again.
One teacher, I was just going to share real quickly, Kathy, one teacher shared, and I privately pushed him to clarify a little bit, or her, I'm sorry, but just that open office hours for students would be a nice option and an opportunity for them to, you know, chit chat with the teacher as well.
Yep, low stress, just for fun. Hey, Trish, I love that you said that I am the ESL teacher. Oh, you're so nice. A newcomer, couldn't be a tougher situation. Trish, I hope you're able to jump on at 10:15 with the ESL teacher group. For that newcomer, again, my hope would be that someone can communicate, you or a translator, with that family, get on a landline call or something, and maybe get that student set up with the free Rosetta Stone right now. How long will the recordings be on the IU website? Oh, well, probably for a very long time, Cheryl. Kelly, any thoughts?
I can't imagine it will ever be taken down. That page might be taken off of our homepage, but I have a feeling that I mean, so many of these sessions are just great for any day of teaching, not just teaching under these circumstances. So I'm fairly certain we'll archive them in some way. I don't think they're going anywhere.
I agree. Hey, everyone, I want to respect your time. It's 10 o'clock. Kelly, I want to thank you very, very much. To the teachers that are listening, if you ever do a Zoom with a large group, like you're putting 2 classes together or something, or you expect a lot of parents, the best thing you can do is have a colleague be the person monitoring the chat room. It really makes things so much easier. Have a great day. It's almost the weekend. And for those of you that are joining me at 10:15, go refresh your coffee or whatever you're drinking, no judgment. And we will talk again on a new Zoom link at 10:15. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Safe, everyone.